Welcome everybody to the Holganix webinar for today. We're going to be focused on our agricultural results in the field from some of the guys who are out there using it and seeing the soil with their own hands and seeing the results that they have with their own hands. Appreciate everybody coming on board. It's 10:58 according to my computer. We'll give this till just a minute or two after 11, just to make sure that everybody has a chance to sign in, and then we'll get started. So thanks for your patience and thanks for the time today. We're going to go ahead and get started with our webinar for today, talking about the results that we're seeing with Holganix Bio 800 from Nick Voss and Brian Strider, two guys that have been using Holganix for a number of years, done a bunch of trials, spent a bunch of time in the field. I respect the heck out of both of these guys. They're super knowledgeable agronomists and growers, and so it'll be fun to see what they're seeing and have a conversation. We will open this up for Q&A at the end. If you have any questions as we're going through, just put them in the Q&A deal, and we'll go through those and at the end, if we have time, we'll answer as many questions as we can. If we don't answer them on the webinar, we'll certainly answer them via email afterwards. So with that, we'll get started. So I'm Barrett Urshik. I'm the founder and CEO of Holganix. I want to thank everybody again for giving us time out of your busy day to learn a little bit about Holganix and how we help improve soil health and profit per acre for our growers. So we've got Nick Voss, who is an active farmer out in Kansas, out in Southwest Kansas. Nick, you want to say hello and talk a little bit about what you do?
Hey, good morning, everyone. Yeah, we're down here in the desert and farming and trying to be more profitable and see what we can do, reducing inputs basically. And this year is no different than other years. We have tried, we got a pretty big rain event that kind of hammered us at early, but also opened up kind of an uninvited opportunity, if you want to call that, to try and push nitrogen further this year. And it's interesting, the results that we're seeing. I think we can get by with a lot less. We got the tissue samples back, and we got more tissue samples that we are looking at. And even though we're lower nitrogen, we're seeing not a whole lot of effect on the ears just yet. Time will tell how we finish out. We did lose a little bit of pollination issues with the hailstorms we had with the flood, but other than that, we're really liking the results we're seeing.
That's great. Thanks, Nick. And we're going to get into some of those results here in a few slides. So Brian is an active fifth-generation farmer. He also has gone from being a Holganix customer to being helping us to go out in the field and work with farmers. So he's both a customer and a member of the team. Brian, you want to introduce yourself and talk about what you've been up to?
Absolutely. Thanks, Barrett. Good morning, everyone. I feel very, very fortunate to be on the panel today. I feel very fortunate to be part of Holganix. Yes, I'm a fifth-generation farmer and started using the product on our farm last year. So I've got my third application now on the farm. Saw what it did, saw what it can do and what it will do in the future. And I became an employee with Holganix, and it's really been a fun ride so far, and the future is very bright for what we have going and what we can offer to the farmer as far as profitability and as well as making their soil better. It's very exciting times. Thank you.
Great. Well, thanks for being here, Brian. Looking forward to seeing some of your results. And you're part of Missouri, Brian. You want to describe where you're at? Just give people some perspective on kind of ground you're farming.
Yeah, we're in West Central Missouri, just east of Kansas City, about 40 miles north of. We're just lay right north of the Missouri River. We've got sandy soils, we've got loamy soils, as well as some good old-fashioned black gumbo. So we have a host of a lot of different soil types, and it's been fun because with all of this that we have throughout our growing area, it's really showing what Holganix can do on all different soil types, as well as irrigation, non-irrigation. So we've got a lot going on.
Sounds good. Thanks for the overview, Brian. So before we start looking at some of the
Imagine a farm where the soil is alive and thriving, where each crop reflects dedication and care. At Holganix, we embrace the power of nature's soil microbes to enrich the land. By enhancing our soils, we support the enduring vitality of family farms. Together, we're cultivating sustainable growth and prosperity, nurturing your farm's future one season at a time.
So that's our little promo video to get us excited about the next 40 minutes we're going to spend together, looking at some results in the field from these two gentlemen. Before we get into the actual experience in the field, give you a brief overview on Holganix and just to be thinking about, how we can help you out on the farm. So, we'd like to, start with this question, to think about starting the journey to rebuild your soil, add life back to your soil, make it more productive every single year. So ultimately you can pass the farm down in better position than you inherited it. In fact, if you could just think out 3 years from today, what if your farm was completely transformed? What if you couldn't recognize how your farm was producing? Everything from reduction of inputs, NP and K, improved stand count, reduced insect pressure, reduced fungal pressures, faster and easier planting, better stress management and drought tolerance, increased root mass, which converts to higher organic matter, reduced tillage because we've got a really powerful microbial degradation product, and ultimately higher yields. All of this leading to healthier soils and better profit per acre. So top 5 reasons to use Holganix Bio 800. So it's an active living biological that has a broad spectrum consortium of over 800 species of bacteria, fungi, amoeba, and protozoa that are all working together to drive that soil microbiome and the health of it. We're all about putting life back in the soil. The results that you can see as a result of early emergence. I mean, look at this corn treated versus untreated on the first little picture there. The roots, you can always pull up a treated root versus an untreated root and see a significant amount more root hairs, thicker roots, deeper roots, more fibrous roots. We see less disease, less pest. We help to replenish and build the microbiome so that the microbes are working for you. As a result, we got a much healthier soil, much more functional soil. The roots, because they're deeper and thicker, we get better nutrient uptake, better water. We can explore more of the soil's structure to get more water. And the microbes ultimately create kind of a glue, which we call a rhizosheath around the roots, which help the soil stick to the roots and again, helping the functionality of everything. We see better stands with higher yields at harvest. So ultimately that turns into yield. So higher yield, less inputs, better soil, more resilient plants. It's easy to apply. Put it down. We like to put it down in the spring. Bio 800 in the spring at 2 weeks pre or post planting. So you can do it right at planting or a little before, a little after. We like to see you put down a half a gallon per acre of concentrated material. It can go right in with your fertilizer. If you're doing a starter, it can go in with your pre or post emergent herbicide. You can apply in furrow or as a broadcast. It works equally well in both situations. On a broadcast scenario, 10 to 15 gallons of water per acre. In furrow, 5 gallons of water per acre. And pretty much we can mix with almost anything but a fungicide. You can use fungicides in the field, but we don't want to tank mix with fungicides. We've got a lot of beneficial fungi. It's one of the things that makes the Holganix product stand apart from our competition of other microbials. In addition to the significant biodiversity, we've got more active fungi than anybody we can see as far as competition goes, and that's a real benefit for the soil. We don't want to kill those beneficial fungi by tank mixing with fungicide. The fall application, it's a slightly different formulation. It's still called Bio 800, but you have Bio 800 Ag, which we put down in the spring, and Bio 800 Breakdown we put down in the fall. Post-harvest, half a gallon an acre, 15 gallons of water, broadcast on top of your stover, your stubble, and it does a really good job at chewing up the stover and stubble, recycling the nutrients back into the soil, adding organic matter, and putting the NP and K that are tied up in that stover and stubble back into the soil so it's ready to work for you for next year. And you'll notice in the spring, it'll plant nicer, it'll go faster, you'll get better germination, better stand count, because you don't have to deal with all that trash laying on the field. And ultimately, if you have a desire to go to no-till or minimum till, this is going to be a powerful tool to help you do that. So a couple things to consider when deciding to use Bio 800. We like to see you back down slowly on your nitrogen rates. Frankly, if you're going to go in at a pound per bushel, 1.2 pounds per bushel of nitrogen, as a lot of guys do in different markets, and use Holganix Bio 800, you're probably spending more money than you need to spend. Two is you're actually going to make the microbes work less. If there's too much fertilizer there, they actually don't do as good a job as if you can back off just a little bit. So we like to say, start off backing down first year. If you're used to 0.1 per bushel, go to 0.9, go to 0.85. As you start to see the benefits in the soil, we'll help you with soil tests and show you the benefits. You can start to back down, more each year. As you'll hear these gentlemen have gotten fairly aggressive on some of their nitrogen rates and still seeing great results. We access a lot of potassium and phosphorus that are in soils. Most soils have a lot of potassium and phosphorus in them. They may not be available to plants, but if we get the right microbes there, we can pull those nutrients up. So we can back off P and K quite a bit. And again, that fall application helps to release a lot of P and K and put it back in the soil that may otherwise just get plowed over and not released. And microbes will ultimately help the fertilizer you apply stay where you put it, and then get to the plant much more efficiently. So we get more of the fertilizer you apply actually goes to the plant, versus without the right microbial population, you could be spending $1 on fertilizer and only get 50 cents to the plant. So we help you get as much of that dollar to the plant of fertilizer as possible. And you'll see some of these results here in a second. But just some things to consider when deciding to use Bio 800. It is a living, active product like no other microbial. We have most microbials out there are spore-forming bacillus that are easy to store at room temperature. They're very limited in what they can do, and they're all basically all around 26 different spore-forming bacillus that people source and combined into 2 or 3 or 4 microbial strains per product. We're different. We're using over 800 species of active living biology: bacteria, fungi, amoeba, and protozoa. So that does take some consideration when going into storage. It's not a big deal for the operator. They just need to understand how to handle it. We produce it in the Midwest. We deliver it to you when you're ready to plant. And basically, if you get it in a tote form, you've got up to 8 weeks once you receive it to go ahead and use it in the field. And in jug form, we're seeing closer to 4 weeks to go out there and use the product. So it's not critical that it's not ice cream, it doesn't melt, but we do like to see it used within a couple of months of receiving it. Once it's mixed in water and in the spray rig, you should use it within 2 weeks. Now, we do have long-term storage capability and refrigeration, which a lot of our dealers have refrigeration locally. And as long as we keep it between 33 and 44 degrees, it's got virtually unlimited shelf life, because at that point the microbes go dormant. They don't consume the oxygen in the food in the liquid solution, and they can live for a very, very long time. So there is some storage consideration, but frankly, once you get used to it, it's a piece of cake and it's never an issue. So measure results. This is also a piece that makes us different. Brian, you've been out there doing this for the last couple of months, going out and measuring results in different markets. Talk about what you're doing and what you're seeing and why this matters.
We've been out doing the soil tour throughout the Midwest, actually from Maryland clear up to South Dakota, places in between. And what we're out here doing is we're actually doing 3 different things. Is we're using the Crystal Labs probe. We're going down into the soil, and we're getting a reading and checking the results on what kind of activity we're seeing with we have several different things we're doing, but we're actually looking at like your cation exchange capacity, your organic matter. Those are some of the 2 main things we're doing with those to see how they're moving.
Brian, Brian, real quick, just to give people some perspective, if they don't know about the Crystal Labs probe, it's a new piece of technology, allows us to do instant real-time soil testing in a digital form. So it has a bunch of technology that goes into the probe. So when you stick it in the ground, that technology measures a bunch of critical factors in the soil and then sends it back to us to give you an instant report on. So just give you some perspective. That's what Brian's talking about with that Crystal Labs probe. So go ahead, Brian. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, thanks, Barrett. I appreciate that because that's very important that, you know, when we're out here doing this and when we're using the Crystal Labs probe, which I think we're Crystal Labs' largest customer, we're able to, you know, give a quick snapshot right there with the grower if they're there with us to say, hey, this is what's going on. And then as we're doing that, we actually will take a soil sample and if time permits, we can do it right there in the field, which takes about 30 minutes, which is the microbiometer up there at the middle of the screen. And what it does is it will actually look at your bacteria to fungi ratio. And, you know, it depends upon where you're at, soil types, farm practices of what people have been doing. I mean, we've seen it as a 92% bacteria to an 8% fungi. And we've seen that move as much as up to a 78% to a 22% bacteria to fungi ratio, which is a pretty nice move. But our goal is to try to get that as close to 50-50 as we can. And we're able to monitor that with the microbiometer. Also, we go over to the leaf tech, and it's like the two first one. It's as real time as we can get to do tissue samples, and it's not invasive to the plant. So we can actually just latch onto a plant, take a snapshot, and we can get the movement or of what's going on in the plant as far as what kind of nutrient uptake we're getting in conjunction to what's in the soil. And so with all this being said, what we do at Holganix is not only do we, you know, we want you to feel comfortable with the product that we're working with you, but we also want to support you and be able to go out on your farms and say, hey, this is working. Or, hey, if there's something going on, we need to find out what and why. So we're very hands-on, and we've been seeing excellent results. And the really cool part is when a grower goes with us and we've measured their soil before, we can actually go right back to that spot with the soil probe and do it, so we can actually see what movement is where, you know, right where we've been, because that's pretty important. You want to be able to go back and give a solid comparison from start to finish or during the process. And we've been seeing excellent results, eye-opening results. It's been all positive, and that makes it pretty exciting for what we're doing. So we're going to continue to do this as we grow, but we do this on a lot of the farms that we're on, or try to do all of them if we can. So that's it in a nutshell with the measuring.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, we're building capacity around this. You know, so where we have enough customers within a geography, we try to get out and do this testing at no cost to the customer, just to help them validate what's happening in their soil health journey. And what's cool is, you know, we can do it year 1, year 2, year 3, and we can show that soil health continue to get better and better and better, and then give the grower some confidence to start to back off more on some of their nutrients as they see their critical numbers of their soil health continuing to grow and feel good about what's happening. So it's a pretty neat thing. If we haven't been able to get to your market, you know, we apologize. We are trying to get to as many people as we can, and building capacity to do this. To date, I think we've done over 4,000 individual tests on different fields throughout the Midwest and the Mid-Atlantic, and we're continuing to do more every day. So when you think about the Bio 100 applied corn, you know, these are different things that we see in general. We're going to go through specific results here in a minute, but you know, we see more root hairs with better brace roots, thicker, more reliable stalks, less pest and disease. You'll see a darker green shade. That's indication the nitrogen's getting to the mature leaves. Roots are significant, deeper, thicker, more fibrous, and better stand counts and better yields. So let's we've kind of talked about some of this stuff here in what Brian and Nick have seen. Before we get to that, they gave you some general questions. They've already answered these questions, I think, in their overviews. Let's get to some more specifics. So, Nick, this is a picture you sent us. Tell us what's happening, what you're seeing, why people should care.
This was at planning, 24 hours after planning and 48 hours after planning. Seeing, well, as you can see on the pictures, kind of the picture speaks 1,000 words. We already have the colonization happening basically 24-hour after sprouting. And you can already see that root starting to attract and get the build up and get all the biology working for us literally 2 days after we planted.
Yeah, that's neat. And out where you're part of the world, Nick, this is particularly important because you want to get that corn is going as quickly as possible to take advantage of the season that you get, right?
Yes. We usually like to get it out of the ground as quick as possible, obviously. And the fact that we have the biology associating with it that quickly is pretty important. And not to get sidetracked a little bit, but this is GMO corn, and a lot of people will tell us that biology don't associate as well with GMO corn, and I think we're seeing otherwise. If you put the GMO corn in a healthy soil environment full of biology, it does associate with it, and I guess following this corn seeds journey, we kind of see that and seeing the results we're getting, I have no doubt that we are associating. So I'm not sure how much truth is to that and how much we need to get hung up on that.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, we're blessed to have Dr. Dave Stark running our ag division and helping us with a lot of the science around this. Dave spent the first part of his career at Monsanto and was on the team that discovered Roundup Ready. So Dave understands GMO better than anybody, and he understands soil health and microbes better than anybody I know. And he obviously has done a lot of work with our product and GMO oriented products, and we see consistent results. So Nick, what's going on here? What are we looking at? Tell us about this.
Basically, June 12, 10 days after we well, it'd be 13. This wasn't June 12, but this was 10 days. But anyway, just following the route and following, the development, seeing the taproot, seeing go down. This was no-tilled into a green cover. So in this case, we do run occasional tillage, but this field was no-till. And just looking at the taproot going down and the colonization on the first root still, I mean, the root mass and the fine dense hair roots that we're seeing is pretty impressive. We're seeing a lot more hair root development where we use it. And again, we don't do strip trials anymore. We've passed that, long time ago, where we just believe in the product and do every acre. But we do see a lot more hair roots where we do use it.
Great, thanks, Nick. We got a few more from you here.
Yes, this would be another week later, and same thing. I mean, seeing a lot more lateral development, a lot more hair roots. This is pretty sandy soil. This is our 4th year in the program, so it's not where we want to have it just yet, but it is improving every year. It is a field that we did last week with the testing, so it came back basically a little bit deficient in nitrogen, but everything else we were actually sufficient and excess of. Even though this field at this point in time had not had any nitrogen yet, and basically just the in-furrow that we've put down with the organics. That's
amazing. So at this point, we've had no nitrogen. You said you had some nitrogen deficiency, but you hadn't put any down.
We took tissue samples at 5 leaf, which is right after this, and it was nitrogen deficient. Yes, at this stage we took tissue samples. The color looked good enough that we held off on the nitrogen still. And that's kind of what I'm saying is, sometimes when your boots on the ground, it looks good enough and we wanted to push it. And at this point in time, we still were 0 nitrogen. And after these samples were taken, we did apply about 18 pounds of nitrogen. And then we took another tissue sample, about 10 leaf, and it was still a little bit nitrogen deficient. But again, every other macro and micro was sufficient. And at that point in time, our FOS program has been about 2.5 pounds of FOS now for, I don't know, 7 years. And we're not FOS efficient. Anytime we do samples, we're not FOS efficient. This is the field across the road, planted 1 day apart. This is a 104-day hybrid. That same thing. At this time, I think we had 37 pounds of N at this point. We just applied more after brown soak, and we'll end up, depending on what we get for a yield goal, we'll probably end up anywhere from 0.35 to 0.5 pounds per bushel. And so that would be the lowest we've been. Again, we might lose 5, 10, 15 bushel. I don't know. That's what we're trying to figure out, is where that sweet spot is, where we're very efficient and still, not over applying nitrogen. And again, we were just a little shorter this year on the stock. We still had really nice thick stalks. Could have, is that height going to bring to yield to the table? I don't know. That's why we keep pushing the envelope with these testing to see, just how little can we get by without affecting profit. And we're not so much yield driven as profit driven. So, 180 bushel corn with 30 pounds nitrogen is probably more profitable than 240 bushel corn with 200 pounds of nitrogen. So we're trying to find that sweet spot, and it's trial and error, and it's every year a lot of testing to get to it.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing, Nick. So going down to below a 0.5 pound of nitrogen, really pushing things, compared to some of your neighbors that are doing more, traditional, fertilizer programs, where would they be at?
I would say generally the area is between 0.8 and 1.2.
Yeah,
the guys who are long-term no-till covers or no covers, I think is generally around, a 3/4 pound to just over a pound. Obviously, conventional till guys and land grants are still recommending 1.2, which is really silly, seeing what we're seeing. So, I mean, the money that you offset by reduced inputs more than 2, 3, 4 times pays for the biology, in my opinion. There's no doubt.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Thanks, Nick. And you're saying phosphorus and potassium, move into the plant with plenty of
we have not applied sulfur, zinc, boron in any measurable amount compared to standards for the last 5, 6 years. We have a starter blend that we use that have small, what we call a multivitamin, that's just a small amount of everything, and we try and supply everything at starting in furrow with the organics, and that basically carries us through the season. We have not needed any more phos or sulfur or zinc or any other mineral nutrient for that matter.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, you're a real pioneer in soil health and always out there pushing the envelope. I love hearing what you're doing and the results you're getting. And I think this might be your last picture on corn for you.
This was a few years ago up in Nebraska, Jason's farm, and he actually took the picture, and that's when we got him started. And yeah, the stalk diameter, stalk thickness, that was the best corn they've had on that farm that year. And yeah, that it's usually how you start is with the roots and the thickness of the plant. A lot less green snap, a lot less lodging, thicker leaves, wider leaves, a lot better photosynthesis canopy, and a lot more chlorophyll that's being built, and a lot more sugars being pushed to the roots with the organics.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Yeah, bottom line is, add that life back to the soil, and the soil does what it's supposed to do. Now, this picture here is unfair because this is a pretty impressive stalk of corn. However, ear of corn, I should say. However, Brian's trying to show us how big it is. This is Brian Strider's arm. What we don't realize is Brian's 6'4". So his arm is bigger than most. So it's even better than what you show here, Brian. But why don't you tell us what we're looking at?
This is actually out of my field. This corn is a 114-day hybrid. It was planted on April 15th. We started in we put 150 pounds of anhydrous on. We didn't do any P&K. This did have fall applied Holganix on it. It was vertical tilled, field cultivated in the spring, and then planted with starter fertilizer, and half gallon of Holganix in furrow. And also this picture was actually taken, my gosh, I think it was the 26th day of July, so not very long ago. But the good part is I feel very fortunate in the fact that I'm doing this stuff on my farm and feel very confident. And this is why I do what I do, because I want to be able to relate that to customers and be able to say, yes, this is how we can do it, and yes, how it works. Standability is awesome. I planted it at 33.5, and the stand count I did do was at 33. So the ear itself, the girth is great. The weight is what I've really noticed. We had good rain early, and we haven't had rain now for about a week, and it's been in the upper 90s, pretty hot. But so good things are happening in the field, and I'm pretty excited for all of our customers to reap the benefits.
Cool. And Brian, we're looking at 150 pounds of nitrogen, no P, no K. What are you projecting? What do you think this is going to produce?
Quick math, I think it was, and of course it's just quick math on this here, but it was 286 was what it was looking like. So it'd be great, and I'm pretty excited to get in. I mean, it's a uniform field. I had no drown spots. That's the other thing. We did have a wet spring. I had 0 replants. A lot of neighbors and customers had a lot of replant this spring. I had none. So that I truly believe that the Holganix makes a difference.
And so you believe you had no replants because it was just able to get out of the ground quicker and stronger?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's neat. So we got some more stuff from you, Brian. Tell us what we're looking at here.
This was actually some stuff we did this is in Illinois. I believe this is on Grant Strom's farm.
Okay.
And we had some that was treated, the control on the left-hand side, treated on the right. And the basic thing that we've been noticing as we're doing the testing is the root structure, and as well as the stalk circumference. And it's along with what Nick said. We get a better root structure in the soil, being able to grab more of the micronutrients and the NP and K and all the goodies for the better root system, which in turn makes for better stalks. So, and the root hairs, I've been, Dr. Stark has been really helpful in explaining this to all of us, but I've learned a lot from him on learning about what the rhizosheath is, as well as the root hairs. And the root hairs you'll see on the treated is a big thing, and it's able to grab a lot more nutrients from the soil and take it up into the soil.
Yeah, that's a great visual, and makes all the sense in the world. You put the life back in the soil works for you. What do we have going on here, Brian?
This was taken in this was in Norburn, Missouri, and on the left-hand side is in-furrow starter with the Holganix. On the right, which is the control, is no starter or Holganix at all. We walked out into the field and dug in on both sides, and what we're seeing is, if you can just literally see, both sets of 4 sets of roots look pretty darn good. But if we're able to hone in on the left-hand side of the Holganix, you'll see more root hairs. You'll actually see a better network of roots, the stalks. Look at the stalk size, as well as the leaves on the corn are wider. They're more healthy. It's a bigger plant. And these were actually planted the very same day, which, as it goes back to Nick's first initial picture with the seedling of corn and getting that growth starting hours earlier, which is very huge as you run on down into the race. Great.
And here we got some more photos that you took from the field out in Maryland.
Yep, these are taken some of the guys from the mill, some customers out there. And the crazy part is if you notice, broadcast and in furrow, we discovered out there there is no big difference as far as the application. A lot of people ask us that, but as you can see on both the broadcast and the in-furrow are excellent. The control, unfortunately just doesn't have the stalk circumference or the root mass that both of the treated Holganix plants have. And if you'll notice in the root structures of both of those plants, all the root hairs, A, but B, if you notice inside of those roots, all of the soil that's adhering to the roots. And the reason why that is it goes back to Dr. Stark talking about the rhizome sheath and all of the root hairs holding on to the nutrients in the soil, and it's able to, if you will, latch on and uptake more nutrients. So there again, the proof's in the pudding. And this is the kind of stuff that we have seen all summer long as we've went across a lot of acres and just done a lot of testing. So the point keeps getting driven home from Maryland through to South Dakota, and it's a good thing to see.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, this farmer, I know this farmer fairly well. He has a very robust, progressive program where he really manages his fields extremely well and extremely closely. His control here is his standard fertilizer program that he's very proud of. The broadcast and in-furrow are simply adding Holganix on top. I'm not even sure he backed off any of his NP or K, although he should have. He would have probably gotten a little bit better results. But actually, he's already on a pretty lean side anyway, because he's, as I remember, he's really studying the soil nutrients and trying to be efficient. But you can see here, and when you went out and looked at those fields, he tell him the story about how you pick these, like you're just walking through the field.
So the funny thing about this guy is he picked the plants. And knowing this farmer, he says, I'm not going to let you guys pick the plants. I'm going to pick the plants. So as we're going down through there, one of the guys with us from the mill brought a potato fork. I'd never seen it used in my life. And this grower was really giving us some static about having a potato fork. Well, as we walked across the field, he was stabbing, just walking like a cane with the potato fork. And when he was going in and it was sinking in as he was walking across the rows of the treated. And when he got to the rows of untreated, it wouldn't go in very well, which was phenomenal. We didn't realize what was going on, but so this was a real testament to the 360 degree to what Holganix can do, and it's proving that it can do well in the soil, and it's proving what it can do for the roots and the stalks. And he has backed off where he's at in Maryland. They're very limited on their NPK use. So this is actually a very, very good test and a very good illustration of what, if you back down on your inputs, on your soil inputs, that we can help things grow.
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks, Brian. I know that was a lot of fun being out there that day. And here's more.
I'm Brian Strider with Holganix. We're up here in Pennsylvania and Maryland working with the mill. And we've been looking at crops all day, and we've been looking at controls that are untreated. We're looking at stuff that's treated with Holganix. And I have a very good example right here of what we're doing. And right here's the control. It has nothing on it. And if you look at the roots, I mean, they're not bad roots, nothing at all. But if you don't know any better, then you're very happy. So we look at the control, it looks pretty good. But as we go to the Holganix in furrow, this corn was planted at 34,000 population and about 2.5, 3 inches deep. And the in furrow and the broadcast, as we have explained to you before, we are seeing no difference in the broadcast and in furrow application. And this is a proven test of what we're working towards in making your soil better. These roots look so much better than the control, the hair roots, and they're healthier plants as well. If you can look back down here and you see the stalks compared to the control, they look that much better.
So there's you got to see Brian out in the field and quick video on him. Before I move on to the next section here, Nick, we got a question from Bryce. He's asking, what is your cost of production estimate, for your break-even bushels on these fields? So you were talking about some pretty aggressive numbers there. Can you relate that back to Bryce's question?
Have not looked at the total for this year. I think last year we were at $2.44 a bushel, if I remember right, and we should be a whole lot lower than that this year.
Okay, neat. And Brian, do you have any top of your head kind of reference to that? I mean, you got totally different ground, totally different program.
I can tell you that our break even, and there's a lot of variables go into that, but our break even right now, well, given a month ago or even a month and a half ago, would have been close to that $3.75 to $4 mark. But I can tell you this, I have peeled out of my operation 50 pounds of anhydrous in the last 2 years, down to 0 P and K. So I'm peeling out about, and then gosh, it all depends on the variability of the products, but I'm peeling out about 75 to 80 plus dollars an acre on my input costs, and my yields have been better. So I hope that's helpful.
Neat. And all along we're driving soil health. So every year we do it, the soil gets a little better, the performance gets a little better, our nutrient efficiency gets a little better. And that'll continue to build what we like to say the flywheel of soil health. Keep putting energy into it, it gets better and better year over year. But it'll absolutely work the first time as well. So we'll move on. So now we're going to take a look at Holganix on beans, and what we see here in beans. We see it's the same story. We see better root hairs. With much more present. They go down through the hard pan. We get much better nodules, which gives us better end fixing. We give us early pods for better pod fill and more numerous pods. We got, again, the tap roots they don't go lateral. They go down deep and get through the hard pan. And denser stands with darker color, which tells us we got healthier crops, and we actually see less chewing and sucking insects to the line where you treat it. They tend to go after plants with lower Brix numbers, and with the Holganix treated, we see Brix come up, and that tends to push the bugs away. So here's an example of Brian. This is one of your fields. You want to tell us what we got going on?
Yeah, this is actually one of our fields down in northern Missouri, and this is in some really tight gumbo soil. And if you notice on the Holganix side, the root structure is noticeably better. The plants are bigger. As the control side, this was actually sprayed on broadcast and in the spring, and they left some strips out in the field that are without. So it again reiterates the fact of a healthier plant, healthier roots, and all around. I don't think we're able to see it very good in here, but as we walk through the field, we actually noticed less insect pressure on what was sprayed with the Holganix as opposed to the control because of the healthier plant.
Neat. So this is a pretty good picture here.
Yes, that is again another field in Norburn, and as we walk across the field, we're noticing that on there, about where I'm walking, where that arrow is pretty sparse on the left hand, be to your left. As we walk, you can see the beans are thicker where that line is, and that again is where the Holganix was sprayed. We had a better stand count, better plant stand, better plant health. So just another illustration of what we are able to do.
And this is more the same, Brian. Is this from you?
Yes, it is. This too is a field. You can almost see the line. The plants are so healthy. We're not seeing any insect damage. Those I believe that field was planted the first week of April. I can't remember when the picture was taken, but we've just healthy plants.
Neat. So here we got some alfalfa. We haven't talked much about alfalfa. You want to tell us what you see in alfalfa out there, Brian?
Nick, I think this was Nick.
Oh, is it Nick? Nick,
Yeah.
is it alfalfa? I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is our picture. We were looking at that last week, and the amount of insects we have roaming around on that field last week when we did the test was kind of mind-boggling. Butterflies, bees, ladybugs. We had a lot of insect presence on this farm. First year alfalfa, 2 cuttings were just over 4 tons right now, probably another ton on the one we just laid down. So pretty dry and hot this last one. We're hoping to push the last cutting, but this no chemical, no fertilizer. It has had organics and worm extract and molasses, and that's all this alfalfa field has had this year. Looks really good. Again, it didn't have weevils, didn't have aphids, haven't had to spray for anything, and it looks really good.
That's neat, Nick. And you're seeing the beneficial insects coming back, the bees and the ladybugs and such. And you think that's testament to the nature of your treatment field?
We're seeing that, and we're also seeing, because this is all on the same farm where we have divided into rotations, and so another part of this farm is corn and another part of this farm is soybeans. And as far as insect pressure, really a lot of beneficial predator presence in the other farms. And I think it comes from, the blooming of the alfalfa. So need to find a bee guy, probably do come and set up in the corner on this farm, because it's got a ton of bees and butterflies.
Oh, that's neat. So now we're gonna talk about the next step. So everything we've been talking about so far is results the guys are seeing from our spring applied product, the Bio 800 Agriculture. We're getting ready here, coming up at, depending on what part of the country you're in, when harvest starts, we'll be having a lot of our customers putting down a second application in the fall, which is called our Bio 800 breakdown, and it's specifically formulated with more degraders. The spring product is designed for early germination, nutrient uptake, rooting, everything we've been seeing. The fall product is designed specifically for degrading stalk, stover stubble, all the fodder that's left over, and turning that back into nutrients, putting it into the soil, helping us get closer to no-till if that's our goal. And the benefits are tremendous for the soil, because we continue to add that life back to the soil, everything we've been talking about. So each time we add energy to the soil flywheel, the soil health flywheel, you do it in the spring, you do it in the fall, you just keep adding energy to it. You get those nutrients back in the soil, so you don't have to pay for them next year instead of hauling them away or burning them under. We get much better microbiome diversity with doing the second application, and the spring emergence is obvious. Let me just go back and tell the story of this picture here. Brian, you've been around the guys that took this picture. I know you didn't take this picture, but you've been around those guys, and I think you know the color of the story. If you do, tell it. If not, I'll tell it.
I believe this was fall applied. It was an early fall. I believe in October. Sprayed it, and the breakdown does a phenomenal job. And it was not touched all winter long. And you go back in the spring. This is I believe in southeast Iowa, and they go back and it's done its job. It's actually helped to turn the soil black, and all of the stover and the nutrients are going down into the ground.
Yeah, I mean, so both of these had a light vertical till. Both these fields did, but you can see the treated versus the untreated, and this is just a couple of weeks after treatment. You can see the difference. The microbes are degrading that stalk, that stover, putting those nutrients back in. And I think sometimes this kind of gets glossed over. We don't pay as much attention to what our removal rate is per ton, but when you look at these numbers, they really add up. If you look at corn, 17 pounds of nitrogen 4 of P, 34 of K, and this is per ton, right? So 40 bushels of corn are going to give us a ton of removal. So if if you're doing 200 bushel, multiply those numbers by 5. That's what we're potentially not using. But if we can use the breakdown, they use the microbes to convert those stover and stubble, release the nutrients in the soil, put humus and organic matter back in the soil, in addition to helping us get through the field better, it adds a lot of nutrient back to the soil. And you can see beans and wheat, same story. So this is something I think not to be forgotten. And you can see there's other microbial breakdown products out there, whether you're looking at, Meristem or BW Fusion or others. If you're looking at a breakdown product that's a microbial based, I want you to ask them how many species of bacteria, how many species of fungi. What you're going to find out is that they're basically bacterial based products, spore-forming bacillus. They do not consume stover. They don't break down cellulose material. What they do is they put holes. The bacteria will put holes in the stalk, and if you put enough holes in the stalk, and if the fungi are there naturally, maybe you'll speed up breakdown a little bit. But what we do is we actually bring out the bacteria that put the holes in there, but we also have a bunch of fungi that are really geared towards consuming and converting the plant cellulose back into organic matter and humus. So frankly, if you don't have those beneficial fungi in a microbial breakdown, it's going to work 5% compared to what we're talking about here. And you can see it. I mean, you can see these stalks, they break open easily just a couple of weeks after application. You can see the fungi starting to multiply. You can see this kind of white cotton candy looking stuff that's under the mat. That's the fungi multiplying, ultimately consuming those stover. And this is 10 days after application. So it gives you a really good visual on what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how important it is, and how much more efficient it can make your operation. So again, treated versus untreated, we can see the difference. You can walk across it, you can feel it. Brian, do you have any specific color on these two? I know it's not your client, but I think you've been around these guys, quite a bit and heard their stories.
Yeah, so what we're seeing here is it was a fall application of the Holganix on the left-hand side, untreated on the right. And what we're illustrating here is how much easier you're able to put on your anhydrous in the spring and actually get into the field a little earlier because of the breakdown of all of the chaff and the stalks and the stover as compared to the right-hand side. They're not broke down at all. That's really clumpy and really doesn't look really good.
Yeah. So, I mean, picture's worth 1,000 words. You can see it, feel it, touch it, put the life back in the soil. The soil will definitely do a better job of working for you. So again, with our fall application, the Bio100 breakdown, we like to put it down at a half a gallon an acre post-harvest, as close to harvest as you can get, because we do want to get some of the season where the temperatures are still, soil temperatures above 50 degrees. It's going to work really well. Soil temperatures start to go below 50 degrees, it'll work, but it'll just work slower. And it'll, the microbes will be there, throughout the winter, and as things warm up, they'll continue to consume. As they get cold, they'll go dormant. But so the closer we can get to harvest, the better. This picture was taken on October 16th in Western Kentucky, and this is from the grower telling us that the breakdown treated is already hollow in the first internode, and the fungi are growing in it. You can see it. The second internode is much further along than check. So, this is going to turn into a much better field in the spring, better nutrient content, better organic matter. And Brian, you're out there doing all these tests. What are you seeing on, organic matter and other things that, on guys, like I know you're up in South Dakota and such, where some of these guys have been using it for several years. What are you seeing in the buildup of organic matter? Any movements there, and that kind of tells the story in numbers?
Yeah, we're actually seeing tremendous movement because when we were up in South Dakota doing testing up there with John, it was amazing because if you look up the USDA on the average in their area, it should be around 1.5% organic matter. And we're seeing 3 to 5% organic matter. We're seeing some tremendous growth, and usually you usually push for 0.5% in a lifetime to get growth, but with the all of the positive things we're putting into the ground and letting biology work back for the soil, we're seeing really, really good growth, and which was pleasantly surprising. We didn't think that we'd see that big a growth, but we did.
Yeah, and it's not going to, those numbers are a specific example, but we always see movement. That's customers that those group in South Dakota he's referring to has been using this now for 4 years and has been very consistent in building that up over time. Nick, you're part of the world. A lot of soils don't have a lot of organic matter to start with. I'm imagining. What are you seeing in organic matter as you've been doing this and other progressive things to drive that?
Our field that's been basically in this program for the last 10 years, we've almost doubled our organic matter. We started at about 0.8 to 1.2, and now we're like 1.8 to almost 3 in places. So it takes time. And when we have droughts like 21, 22, especially on non-irrigated, it really is very detrimental. When you take away the ability to grow roots, things go backwards pretty quickly. But we've still, any opportunity we have to grow roots, we take it, and we try and get some sugar back in the soil with the exudation. So it's a tough process, but we're definitely making leaps and strides as Mother Nature allows us.
Yeah, it's neat to see what you're able to do out there in such a tough condition, and the success that you've had over time with a lot of progressive thinking. But you're definitely, it's neat to see all the things you're able to get done out there, Nick. And thanks for sharing it with us. So we're pretty much wrapped up on our kind of overview on this. But before I let you go, we've got some upcoming events. You want to learn more about Holganix and how we can help you improve profit per acre and soil health. We've got Bringing Your Soil to Life, talking more about going deeper on the Bio 800 breakdown and how it works and results. And that'll be hosted by Brian Hansel on August 13th. We'll be sending you out links for that if you're on this webinar. And then, we do have some time for questions. The only question that seemed worth answering to the group, we did answer around that break-even analysis. Dave, Brian, I see that you have a question that I think will be a little more one-on-one, and I'll have one of our people reach back out to you, Dave, and answer those questions for you. Does anybody else have anything else for the good of the whole? We're going to finish here right on time, and I want to thank everybody for giving us the time to take and learn about Holganix, how we can bring life back to your soil, help improve your operation, improve your soil health, improve your profit per acre. We're passionate about building win-win relationships with our farmers and helping them make more money on the farm while also improving long-term soil health for the legacy of their family farm. So whatever we can do to help you do that, we'd love to be engaged, talk to you. We'll show you what we can do. We'll prove it in the field, and I think at the end of the day, you'll be real happy that you gave us a shot and started that journey to building healthier soils and better profit per acre. If you really want to drive soil health and start that soil health journey, starting today is a lot better than starting tomorrow, because it's going to be a process, like Nick says. The sooner we get in, the sooner we get the results. So thank you so much for the time you gave us, and Nick and Brian. I really appreciate you all being on the call, sharing your firsthand experience, and appreciate your friendship and all the work you do to help us go out there and spread the good word around soil health and microbes and Holganix technology. So thank you guys, appreciate it. And with that, we'll be signing off.